Right, there's quite a few of you out there like Tomos mopeds, like I do. There's a lot of you out there like the Puch Maxi mopeds as well. Some say the Maxi is better than the Tomos A3, better quality. It's kind of ironic really that actually both bikes, even though they're manufactured by two different companies, they've got the same ancestry, because Tomos made their own version of the Puch MS50 under license from the late 50s, early up to the 1970s, and that's why when both manufacturers went their own ways, developing the Maxi and the A3, completely different engines, but they used the same kind of cylinder stud spacing as on the earlier MS50 bikes, same bore size of both 38mm, so you can actually swap them between the A3 and the Maxi and vice versa. The only downside is that unlike the older MS50 engine, the Maxi has the barrel mounted horizontally, whereas Tomos kept the same kind of diagonal mounting as on the A3 as on the earlier engines, the fan-cooled ones. So they are interchangeable, and I've done it on my green special, and the reason I did it was because I found that the Maxi barrel actually produces a little bit more torque at lower RPMs than the A3 barrel, and there's possibly a few reasons why this is. First of all, the inlet port on the A3 is quite small. It also goes in at an angle and round, and it's not particularly directly into the cylinder, whereas the Maxi is much bigger and it goes straight into the cylinder, which is much better for sort of getting the fuel air mixture into the engine. The exhaust ports are about the same size, as you can see. If anything, I'd say the Maxi was slightly higher, but the biggest difference is, check out those transfer ports there. See how big they are? The Maxi, this particular one, there's a trick up its sleeve, doesn't have an inner wall to the transfer ports. It actually uses the piston as that inner wall, so they're actually bigger. So all that extra kind of fuel air that's getting in there has a chance to get up there. With an A3, if you try and put a bigger carb, or try and increase the fuel air kind of mixture going in, it's always the transfer ports that's the kind of bottleneck on it. I have tried doing some porting on these engines, so you see I've made it a lot bigger and it's a lot more direct. I've also tried, I've enlarged them a little bit. Yet to try that one, but I should be interested in how that one performs. But yeah, I actually quite like the Maxi barrel. It's only got a couple of kind of drawbacks when you do stick it onto an A3, is that because it's mounted like that, you can't use a Maxi manifold because it's a 90-degree bend essentially, and it goes that way, and you need it to go that way, so you've got to make your own manifold. Same goes for the exhaust. When they're like that, the kind of Maxi exhaust is down and back. You can't use a Maxi exhaust on it because on an A3 it's mounted like that and it goes straight down towards the ground, and they'll do the same thing with the A3 exhaust. That's because on A3 they also made the kind of the exhaust port kind of parallel with the ground, even though it's at a kind of 45-degree angle. What I do find kind of strange though is that the actual A3 bottom end is better than the Maxi bottom end. You've got 2 speeds as standard, quite reliable, and the gear ratios are quite good, whereas you'll find a lot of Maxis only a single speed, which is a little bit of a drawback, particularly when it comes to kind of hill climbing and top speed. Right, so there you go. It's a Maxi barrel and matching head, it's a high compression head. That's the second inlet manifold I've made for it, because I've mounted the carb now on the outside of the frame just to make it easier to kind of work on. Although originally that's the manifold that was on there. It's for a Gelato SHA style carb. So as you can see, the angle would be at, whereas if it was a Maxi it would kind of be straight up, and then 90 degrees that way, which can't have been very good for kind of getting the fuel and air into the engine. And on the other side I've had to do the same thing again. I don't know if you can see that. There's an adapter there that goes from the exhaust port down, so you can use the stock A3 exhaust on it. So there you go. That kind of explained my reasoning for kind of using such a mixture of parts on that engine, but they seem to work well together, so that's a good thing. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, it's much appreciated, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.